Okay, we are now live in the Go Pack Go, I believe, Green and Gold group, the page, and even on your Facebook page, the Ultimate Packer Fan. And
Cool.
you were starting to tell me, and if you could share with everybody else real quickly, I know that they'll be interested. You were sharing that you have had heart surgery and you're doing terrific now, but you've
Oh
had
yeah.
problems in the past in regards to it. If you can, share a little bit with everybody what happened.
Well, for whatever it's worth, 1 in 500 people have this genetic heart disorder, and what that means, I was born with it. It's hereditary, and I never knew I had it. I had some issues, growing up. I was a plumber, and I always worked very hard and things like that. And back when I was 30, I experienced some issues. I was doing a 23-unit apartment building, going up 3 flights of stairs. And I mean, at the time I weighed like 170 pounds, I'm 6'4", not, so, I mean, there's no fat there, but I was, out of breath or whatever. So I had they had me wear a monitor for a while, and, they did this, what do you want to call it? This cardiac nuclear stress test when I was 30. They did that again when I was 40. I had a catheterization. I had a mammogram. When I was 50, I had another nuclear stress test, another catheterization. Nothing's wrong with my heart. Well, when I got to be 60, it got to the point where my bedroom's on the second floor, and I was getting to the top of the stairs, and I couldn't breathe. And I mean, it just, it was getting worse and worse. And I thought, okay, now I weigh 220 pounds and I'm getting older, and so shortness of breath. So I went to the doctor, and he says, you got a valve problem or something. He said, something's not right. So he sent me to a cardiologist, and she put me on the treadmill, and I'm laying on the table, and she's doing an ultrasound on me. And pardon my language, folks, but this is just the way it happened. So she's doing this, echocardiogram on me, not an ultrasound. Echocardiogram, like, they do to a pregnant woman and see what the, gender of the child is. And she looks at me and she says, Wayne, she goes, you have hypotropic cardiomyopathy. And I looked at her and I says, what the fuck is that? God's honest truth. And she apologized up and down. And she says, you have a genetic heart disorder. And then she went on to explain it to me, what's happening. So, but, she also said in the same breath after the hypotropic thing, he says, your chances of dying are much greater than the general population. So, here's a guy that's been going through all this heart test and everything else, thinking that, my heart's okay, what the hell's going on here? And then she tells me, that it's it's so bad. So the short of it is they put me on medication for a year, and I during that whole time I did cardiac exercise and everything else, and it was really regressing. And again, at the time of surgery at Mayo, it was 28 centimeters thick. So I went under like almost a 7-hour surgery, and they now my septum muscle is 14 centimeters thick. So having said that, I've got perfect circulation. I have no blockages whatsoever, which was a great thing. And it's honestly, it's like being a new man. When I say, I feel like I'm 40, I honestly feel like I'm 40. If I didn't have arthritis so damn bad from being a plumber all my life, I'd be in pretty damn good shape. But, unfortunately, my chest kind of settled down to the waistline and a little bit, and it's all good.
Now, Wayne, we gotta give you a stiff warning. We try not to say the F-bomb.
Oh no, I told you I was going to tell you how it is.
I know.
I mean,
giving you a hard time.
By all means, and I didn't want to say that, but the impact of the
totally understand.
Disease, totally. So
it'd be shocking.
No, you don't have to worry about it anymore.
It would be shocking.
Oh it was life-changing. It honestly was. It was life-changing, and
but how are you today is the question.
I'm great.
Feeling good? Could get up those stairs without a problem now?
Well, with the exception of the arthritis, I'm doing all right. Yeah. No, it's all good. And, if I get up at 6 in the morning, by 9:30, 10 o'clock, I can move around pretty good. But up until then, I'm kind of like in the zombie mode. I'm really stiff. I've got psoriatic arthritis, and that's another genetic disease that kind of followed me through. And I've got a crystal on my that is pretty intense. And so until the medication sets in, and the anti-inflammatories and stuff. But for the most part, from let's say 10 to 6, I'm in damn good shape.
Good.
Yeah.
Just so you know, a few of your friends have kind of dropped in. I could see him saying hi to everybody.
Hi, friends.
A friend of yours by the name of Chris Jackie. You know that guy, right?
Oh, yes.
Is he?
What's he going to instigate tonight?
Is he one of your favorite kickers of all time?
He is.
Okay.
He is. My wife's had a crush on him forever.
It's that long hair, man. That Super Bowl long hair.
Well, have you seen him lately?
Does he still have it, or I haven't seen him?
Chris?
Yeah.
He's got to wear a ball cap so he doesn't get sunburned, but he's all right.
Okay.
He's a great friend. Dodie loves him to death.
And Mr. Owner himself, Steve Tate, is with us watching.
My brother from another mother.
That's it.
Yeah.
Well, Steve, he was great to talk to. But, Steve, he's a celebrity. He's out there. Everybody knows him as the owner. But
right.
We have this guy that shows up on the news. He's in his own articles out there. He has his own website. He is known as the ultimate Packer fan. How did you get that name, the ultimate Packer fan? And how did you become so notable out there in the Packer world that everybody knows you just as well as Steve Tate? I'm sure because you guys are always together, but you've created your own following, and people love you just like as much as Steve Tate. How did you become so well known in the Packer world?
It's a real great story. The way that, what started me as being, I guess you want to call it well known. I give a lot of credit to the Packers early on. Back in, let's say, 2009. Well, before that, I had joined an organization called the PPCC, which was the Packer Partners Club of Champions. It was the only fan organization supported by the Packers and run by the Packers. And that's kind of how I met Steve and many, many, many other friends that, we haven't even met. And it's been 20 plus years, but we still talk every day on Facebook now. And, even some of us, texting. But to answer your question, back in 2009, the Packer Partners Club of Champions had their first ever Ultimate Packer Fan Contest. And you had to submit a photo. And I submitted a photo, and it was a photo that was taken from my gold package seats in the north end zone of the American flag down on the field. And that won me that contest. So that deemed me, in their minds, the ultimate Packer fan. And in turn, they referred me to be a contestant on Minute to Win It, to do some Miller Beer commercials. It opened up quite a few doors for me. So when the Packers won the Super Bowl in 2010, I was invited to partake in an NFL commercial, as well as Steve and many other Packer fans. And this was going to be shown on the Thursday night game against the New Orleans Saints. That's where I first met Steve. So they wanted me to partake in this commercial, and I had green and gold shoes on, and I could not do that because of NFL, and it had the NFL patch on it. So Steve let me borrow his shoes to to play my part in this little, and do the casting for this little commercial, and that's how Steve and I became friends.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now,
So that's how the Ultimate Packer Fan started. I mean, from winning that contest, people started calling me Ultimate. So to elaborate on it a little bit, St. Vince was there, Steve was there, the owner, Bruce was there, the Acme Packer, Steve Helmet Head was there. There was, several other super fans they had met. Greg the Clown was there, back in those days. So I wanted to do something that I would stand out, to be part of them. And through my longevity as a Packer fan, I collected all these patches and what have you. And being Ultimate, well, Ultimate's, denotes the number one. So I had a custom jersey made up, with Ultimate. And then Dodie, my bride, as I refer her to, she sewed all these patches on. And the rest is pretty much where I am today.
Nice. Now, you got a new patch that you got in the mail.
I do.
Hopefully that's going to be added to one of the jerseys.
My bride is in the process of putting together a new jersey, for me. My other one is about 20 years old now. So it's time, to upgrade. So I hope to debut that for the NFL draft in Tennessee in a couple of weeks.
Wonderful.
It should be done, and yes, yours is going to be, very visible.
Wonderful. Now, I just saw that your bride, Dodie, is watching as well in the group, and she's out there making comments.
Oh, boy.
You might be in trouble.
No, she's a good gal.
Awesome. Well, Dodie, we're glad you're here. Thank you for sharing your time with your husband with us. So.
And so, she's under the weather. She came down with whatever it is, but she's been on antibiotics since yesterday, and we've kept our distance, and everything's good. Okay. Let's leave it at that.
All right. Now, you have the Ultimate Packer Fan Connection website, theultimatepackerfan.com. It's a great website. I love it because you could get so much information out of that. You have the Ultimate Fan of the Month, Ultimate Fans on there, sponsors, everything like that. But one thing that you're part of as well is the PFUFA, the Professional Football Ultimate Fan Association. We've talked about it a little bit with Steve. Could you elaborate a little bit more on what that is, what it means to you? A lot of people don't realize, and a lot of people think, hey, you know what, Dallas Cowboys, they suck, their fans suck, and all that kind of stuff. But this organization is completely the opposite, where you guys embrace other fans. Is that correct?
We do, and and that's a very. There's multiple answers to this question. Pro Football's Ultimate Fan Association, it's an organization that was created back in the day, as Steve, elaborated on. It used to be called, Visa Fan of the Game. And there was a fan that was chosen from every team, every year by Visa. They would get $1,000 gift certificate. They'd get presents on the field during, one of their games and recognized as this Visa Fan of the Game until Jerry Jones decided, well, I'm going to have my own credit card, and they kind of abolished that. And, the fans that were voted in as Visa Fan of the Game, felt there was an allegiance to the organization. There was a unity of, being ultimate fans. And what's classified as an ultimate fan to be inducted into the Pro Football Ultimate Fan Association, we're really pretty finicky. And when I say that, I mean, you have to display the traits of the word ultimate combined with the ultimate fan. So you as a person, not only on the field, on game day, whether you be at your own stadium or another stadium, whether it be football, baseball, basketball, whether it be the high school gym, you have to be on your best conduct and be as positive as possible under any negative situation that comes across. So I guess, what I like to say is, and what impresses most fans is that, let's just say, the Eagles come to Green Bay, and they're in front of the stadium, and and you get 5 or 6 of them all together, and they're posing for a photo. One of the fans are taking. I jump in the middle, and I said, "Photo bomb," and they look at me like, and I said, "Hey guys, have a great game. May the best team win." And it's the expression on their face. A lot of them are stunned, for the most part, and then they say, this is the best atmosphere we've ever been in. And there's a lot of warming to that. So back to your question about, the PFUFA, as we refer to. It's a group of elite super fans from across the country that represent every team with the exception of the Patriots and the 49ers, because we can't find anybody worthy of being in our organization to date. We do have a Patriots fan that is a potential veteran, and to become a potential veteran, because a lot of people ask me, they ask Steve, and they ask other PFUFA members what that exactly means is, a fan has to be recognized by an existing member as an ultimate fan. And the qualifications of that are the aforementioned about good fan conduct, being positive all the time, good sportsmanship and things of that nature, as well as, not so much as attending games, because that's really difficult for a lot of people, especially now, let's say with the Chargers, being in LA and things of that nature, and the Rams, stuff like that. So it's not so much that, but it is the allegiance that you portray to your team that's very, very important, for one. And it's how you present yourself and what you do for others. How active are you in your community? What are your charitable, cause? What do you do? There's a lot to it. Your involvement in the community, whether it's local, or national, is very important. Until being selected into becoming a draftee. So having said that, Steve and I, last year and this year, have brought a draftee into the organization. And so last year we picked Mean Gene, the Packer machine, dancing machine, very good friend of mine. And Steve and I we watched Gene for a couple of years before giving him a draft card. This year we chose Mike Sievert, and Mike is a school teacher in Greenfield, Wisconsin. We've known him since the Packer Partners Club of Champions. He's come to a lot of our events. He does a lot for the community, and so on. And Steve and I felt that he would be an ideal candidate for a draftee. So what happens with that, and I'll elaborate just a little bit longer, what happens with that, now he's recognized as a draftee, so I give him a draft card, which looks like a regular football trading card. It's got a number on the back that's his identification into the PFUFA. So upon receiving that, Mike, Gene, whoever, need to write a biography, 5,000 words or less, of why they're an ultimate fan. So you do that, and then that is reviewed by the membership board. We have a 10-person committee for the membership board. They review that, and upon passing that, then you have a telephone conference call with one of the persons from the membership committee, and selective questions pertaining to what you do on and off the field, your allegiance to the team, and so on and so forth. And that's all recorded. And those calls are reviewed by the membership committee. Upon acceptance of that, you then now you're a potential veteran, and you're invited to our reunion in Canton during Hall of Fame week. So, and that's typically we're all there for 5 days. Okay. And during that time, the potential veteran now, Mike Sievert, will be given a package of trading cards. Every member of the PFUFA, we all have our own trading cards. And so I think I'd given you one of those. And so everyone gets, yes, there you go, PFUFA. The 2013 means that's the year I was inducted.
Everybody see that?
So it's up in that right-hand corner there by my head. So basically, every potential veteran has a stack of 15 cards, and on that Friday night during the Hall of Fame week, we have it's called the PFUFA tailgate. And basically every team that's in the PFUFA replicates their identical tailgate setting along with food and beverage in the courtyard of this hotel in Dover, Ohio. So it's one of the most fantastic events you'll ever do. So the potential veteran has 15 cards. What he needs to do is he has to find that member and spend 10 or 15 minutes with him in conversation, and that member has to sign that card. So having done that, and then there's other activities that the potential veteran has to do throughout the weekend on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And then Saturday afternoon, the membership committee votes to see whether or not this person is worthy of being inducted into the PFUFA. Upon receiving a positive vote, the next morning in the auditorium at the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, we have an awards banquet where these potential veterans receive their challenge coin and acceptance into the Pro Football Ultimate Fan Association. So it's nothing that happens like, say, Jim, you want to be a member? No, it doesn't work that way.
It seems like it's an extensive process to make sure that what was it that I was reading? It was that here it is right here.
Turn your volume up a little again. Volume.
Could you hear me? How's that?
Perfect.
Okay. All right. So an enrollee, the motto is to promote the fellowship of all fans, encourage sportsmanship, and support charitable activities.
Correct.
All right. I love it. I love it.
Thank you for letting me explain that, because a lot of fans don't know exactly what it is.
Well, it was one of the questions James Randolph asked early on was, how does somebody get nominated? Is it, just by you guys watching people, or is it by other people, putting the word out there? And so they were just kind of wondering how that, how they could do that, And so it sounds like it has to come from you guys.
Yes. One of the active members has to recognize someone with the potential of becoming a member.
Awesome.
And quite honestly, if you are an Ultimate fan or have an Ultimate fan status, you stand out quite easily. You really do.
Tell me, if you can, tell everybody about the challenge coin. Do you have yours on you, for one thing? Because I heard that you kind of have to keep it with you wherever you go, maybe in the house, but you have to kind of keep it with you wherever you go.
It is upstairs. It's on top of my dresser where I will not forget it, but yes.
Right.
But yes, I have two of them actually. So just to make sure, because I'm not into doing push-ups.
I heard you don't bet with it. There's no flipping a coin, head or tail. No. You have to keep it with you at all times. So even in that aspect, I like the discipline behind it.
Oh, much. There's a lot of discipline behind it.
That's awesome. Being an
Excuse me, Final came in here.
Uh-oh.
That would be the cockapoo.
Cockapoo?
Excuse me. I'm on. Oh, the hug can wait. My son just come back from Kentucky.
Hi, how you doing?
That's Jared.
Hey, family first, right?
Family first.
Awesome.
Oh, my bride. Save me.
There it is. She heard us talking. See that? She's on top of it. She keeps you in line.
She does.
Perfect.
She does. There's a challenge going.
Awesome.
Yeah.
If you had some advice, because, we have young fans in our group and we have older fans in our group, how would you tell them to be the best fan that they could be of the Green Bay Packers? Because you're the ultimate Packer fan, okay? You're the one out there. What recommendation would you give to them? I know it's not all about having a fancy outfit. It's not about what you look like. Hey, if you stand out, you stand out. But and maybe that is part of it. Help everybody understand what it takes to be an ultimate fan of the Green Bay Packers.
Be positive.
Love that.
Be positive. A professional football game is entertainment. And people lose sight of that. And whether it's a professional football game, whether it's a kid's soccer game, whether it could be t-ball, parents lose sight of the fact that it's a game. You hear more and more and more, the refs are getting beat up all the time. The parents are fighting with parents, in high school and stuff like that. Don't lose sight of the fact that it's a game. We're there to watch a game. And my most common comment at Lambeau Field on game day is, we're here to watch a game. Winning is a bonus. I like nothing more than to watch a good game of football. If we win, it's a bonus. If we lose, you know what? Next week's another day. Like Vince Lombardi once said, if winning isn't everything, then why do we keep score? Real simple. It's great to be, it's great to have more wins, and under that W. But on the same token let's go back to the Hail Mary against the Lions with Aaron Rodgers. All right. Was that a great game?
Well, that pass was.
Now, before you answer me, think about this. Exclude the Hail Mary. Was that a great game?
I would say, personally, for me, I wasn't a fan of it.
Okay, you're not a fan of it, but you know what? The Lions were the first team in history to go 60 minutes and lose a game.
That's true.
So when you think of the excitement throughout this whole game, and here you're down the way that it ended at the very end with a penalty and, back and forth, and Aaron throws a Hail Mary and we win the game, that was a great game. That's what I want to watch, is a great game of football. Yeah, we won. Was it a fluke? It was, we caught the ball. It could have, but it was a great game. And that's what I like to see.
Now, I have a couple questions coming in.
All right.
Let me hit you with some of them. What was your favorite Packer game of all time? Came from Seth Bennett, a huge fan of yours.
Hey, Seth. Pleasure to speak with you, guy, and I'd love to answer your question. There's been many, many, many games, but you know what? In all honesty, the favorite of mine, and I'm sure many of, and I was there, was the Snow Bowl. That was such a surreal experience to be there, to live that. It was so serene. And winning is, that was a bonus too. But, to see Favre out there and, throwing snowballs at each other, him and Driver back and forth. The crowd, everybody was happy. You're in the holiday season. Again, it's a great game, and that's why, that's why I do what I do. It's so much fun.
Well, being at Lambeau Field, nothing is like Lambeau Field. You've been to many stadiums, I'm sure, but nothing.
Yes.
Being at Lambeau.
Yeah. There's, what, and I'll tell you what, Lambeau Field is not just the stadium itself. And I'll tell you what, because when you used to walk back up there in the early 90s, and it was just sheet metal around the bowl, when you went in, you sat down on the cold bleachers and everything else, the mystique of Lambeau, the nostalgia of Lambeau Field, That all makes Lambeau Field. Now it's all, a little fancy. We're still the only stadium in the entire NFL that has bleachers, by the way.
Yeah.
And that's never going to change. It is a great place to go, but all that set aside, the fans is what makes Lambeau Field what it is. Because you can see the parking lot in Lambeau Field, and it's unlike no other. You're welcomed with open arms. Someone you never saw before give you a beer. They'll give you a tenderloin sandwich, give you a bratwurst, give you a Bloody Mary, give you a Manhattan, and it's all camaraderie, but it's fun. And you know what? You can have other fans come in there, with an attitude, and a chip on their shoulder and everything else, and you give them a minute with a group of Packer fans. And I'll tell you what, they're down to norm. They're back down to earth, and it's fantastic.
You're going to have a good time.
That's what it's all about. We have a great time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so.
Right. Kathy Conway wants to know, of all the Packer players you've ever met, which one stood out to you the most and why? Now, maybe that might be a two-part question. Maybe it might be, hey, you have a favorite Packer player, but then you had somebody that stood out to you the most.
That's right. That's right. And I mean, obviously I've met a lot of players in my time. I'm friends with a lot of players, and I do a lot of things with them. And this is not a bandwagon statement, but I'm gonna give you the reason behind probably the most famous Packer player that ever wore a uniform was Bart Starr. And I'm going to tell you why Bart Starr stands out to me. And it's not what he did on the field. It's what he did off the field. Back in, towards the end of the FanFest era, which would have been somewhere around probably 2006 maybe, the Packers used to have this FanFest. And what that was, if you don't know, is that you bought it was $75 to go in, and when you get in there, you get this little packet, and that packet entertained three scratch tickets of star players that you were entitled to get an autograph from. So don't get me wrong, there were plenty of other players in there that would sign autographs, and coaches were always around mingling. It was a Friday night, Saturday event. All-day Saturday event that you can go to. So there's plenty of players you can get free autographs from. But if you wanted guys like Bart Starr, Donald Driver, Mark Schmurra, different guys like that had stood out over the years, you get a scratch ticket. So we got Bart Starr. Well, I had this helmet. I had a jacket that I wanted to have signed. It's a very special jacket. In fact, if I can get my son to get it, I'll show you a picture of it. But there's only 12 made in the world.
Ah, the one that you sent me a picture of.
That's correct. That's correct. So I wanted Bart Starr.
One's for you.
Pardon me?
One's for you, one's for me?
Not yet. So anyways, it's a very special thing. So I get this ticket, and we're waiting in line for like 3 hours, me and my son, Jarrett. And at the time, Jarrett was like 11 years old or something. And he had a helmet, a Packer helmet that he had taken around to all these other tables, for other players to sign and what have you. And in fact, he met Aaron Rodgers that day that Aaron signed his helmet. It was 2005 because Aaron was a rookie. So anyways, we come up, and it's, we're at the Bart Starr, and there's a security guard, and I give Bart my jacket, and he stands up, shakes my hand, asks my name, and small talk, and sits down, and he signs it. He says, to Wayne, best wishes, Bart Starr, which he's notorious for. So my standing behind me, well, he didn't have an autograph ticket. So Bart reaches out for the helmet, and this security guard comes up and says, and he puts his hand in front of my son and pushes Bart away, and he says, they don't have a ticket. Well, Bart looks at this guy, and Bart stands up and takes his finger, and he puts his finger right in the middle of his chest, And he says, I'll decide whose autograph I'm going to sign and when around here. And so he took my son's helmet, introduced himself, asked him his name, and asked him if he played, high school football in school. I mean, he made a big deal out of the whole thing and signed his helmet. So for that reason, Bart Starr, he's the guy. That's awesome. And I've met Brett before, and I'm so many guys, but again, Bart did that, and it was really cool. And to this day, it's my son's favorite story.
If you had a Packer that you have not met, who would it be?
Chuck Cecil.
Wow. Why Chuck?
Your voice is going down.
Okay. Why Chuck?
Well, I've met most all the other guys, but I have not met Chuck yet. But back in the day when Chuck was playing, in the mid-'90s, early to mid-'90s and stuff like that, I mean, him and Toolbox, those guys, they played to win. I mean, Cecil never left a game without blood on his face. And that's the old school of Hard Knocks. And I don't know, for whatever reason, Chuck Cecil's always been a fan of mine.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
Wayne, you also, and tell me if I'm wrong, you probably have the most valued, famous pool table in history.
Lost you.
Is that true?
I just lost you. You're talking about my pool table?
Yeah, you probably have the most valued and the most famous pool table in history.
Well, I think it's one that probably stands out.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about that if you can for a minute. I know about it. I've seen the pictures.
I've been real fortunate, and it's got to be God's will to have several Packer players come to my home for dinner and stop by for whatever reason. But Fuzzy Thurston was here. He watched the championship game against the 49ers. My house, signed my pool table. Amon Green's been here. Jerry Kramer's been here. DeWarren Harris, Chris Jackie, Chris Francis, Bob Long, Dave Robinson, and there's others that have been here, and they all come in, and I've got this, Packer shrine of referred to, and my pool table, and now it's like I've had a couple of guys come over just to sign a table, so
that's cool.
It's pretty cool, Chris Jackie. I mean, he's of course, Chris has to sign with the goalpost, which is cool.
Chris is he's a great guy.
He is. He really is.
Now you had said, and I kind of gave a teaser out there to these cheeseheads, that you might be able to help us out and get Bob Long to go live with us one of these times.
I can do that. I've turned your volume up a little bit.
Okay. It keeps going down, just so everybody knows. I don't know why, but it keeps going down.
It's part of age. So, yes, Bob Long is a very good friend of mine. We did a fundraising event last year. It does fit.
Hold on.
Look at that.
Hold on. I know I'm a big guy, but it fits really well.
I'll be damned. Check that out.
Look at that, guys.
Right? That's fit for Utah.
Wayne, they're going to want to know where they could get some of this stuff from.
Just send me a message. They're $39.95. The quality is good. They're heavy. They're warm. Wow.
Wayne hooked me up, guys. He hooked me up. So you guys need to get a hold of Wayne. And how much was this? $39.95?
Yeah, $39.95. Yeah.
This is great quality. This is great.
It is. It is. Yeah.
I love it.
It is. And soon to be had. We're going to have a website, a store on my website. At the ultimatepackerfan.com, and we're going to have we've got several different. We've got hoodies. We've got the nylon hooded sweatshirts, the nylon regular ones, the dry fit, if you want to call it. We've got dry fit long sleeve shirts, short sleeve shirts, bucket hats, winter caps, lanyards, pins, patches, decals, all that stuff. So that's all going to be on the store, hopefully very soon.
Flip flops. Plan your inside joke, guys. Inside joke.
Perfect.
Plus, Packerland Pride. I can't believe how much information is in here about you in regards to this. There's like 4, 5 pages worth of information.
He did a real thorough job. He really did.
It's incredible. Now,
so back to Bob Long.
Bob Long.
Bob Long has agreed, and of course, him and Marv Fleming are best friends, which Marv is a great friend of yours and mine. And Bob is very eager to come out and let the fans talk and ask him questions, because I'll tell you what, between Bob and Dave Robinson, the stories that they tell of the days of Lombardi are like no other. And I'm gonna share one story. Do I have time?
Absolutely.
I'll share one story that I just love that Bob Long tells me. Back in the days, and I think it was 1966, Bob was active in the Army. I believe it was the Army Reserves that he was active in. And at the time, there were like 6 or 7 players playing under Coach Lombardi that were active in the Army Reserves. So they were playing the Washington Redskins. And just so happens is that the Armory was across the street from where they were playing the Redskins that day. So these guys are all on duty, and the commanding officer gave these Packer players time off to go play football as a Green Bay Packer. So these guys, in their fatigues, ran across the highway into the locker room, put their game gear on, played a game of football, and then went back and played Army again after the game.
Jeez.
And I just thought that was just amazing.
I can't
that they did that, and it's one of those untold stories.
Yeah. It's a privilege. I've said that before, being able to talk to Chris Jackie. I still get in awe every time I talk to him.
Let me tell you about that. Turn your volume up again.
It's maxed out, so you might have to check on your end again.
Let me see here. No, I'm up.
Okay. What about now?
No, it's loud.
Okay.
So real quick on Chris Jackie. Watching Packer games and everything, my wife had the biggest crush on Chris Jackie forever.
So
now I think it's mutual. So, but anyways, so one night, Chris and his wife Terry, we were supposed to meet at a restaurant to go over something. We had never met personally before, and I said, you know what, Chris, I'm 20 minutes from Fond du Lac. I said, why don't you just come down here? And I said, it was a Friday night. I said, what do you say? I'll cook you guys, swordfish and, whatever. So Chris and Terry came down, and they spent 3 or 4 hours here. So here's my wife, like her, how do you want to call it? She had a crush on this guy forever. And now he's sitting across from her, at the dinner table. She's going to kill me for saying all this, but I think she's told him already. And, she still talks about it to this day, because now we're all very good friends. And, just how, I don't know, how everything works out. There's a plan, who the hell knows how it comes to fruition, but it did.
Yeah.
So.
But anyways. I was saying with Chris, and you're more privileged, Chris, and Marv Fleming, Dave Robinson, Bob Long, guys. It's an honor and it's a privilege to sit back and be able to hear the stories that they tell you. I still get in awe of it every time I get a chance to talk to Chris Jackie. I get nervous.
Oh, it's you get pins in you get goosebumps and stuff. I've had, Dave Robinson and Bob Long have been here several times for dinner. And it's not just dinner. It goes into a 2 or 3 hour, and it's never the same story.
Yeah.
We just did an event down at the Milwaukee Fair Park, the sports show, a couple weeks ago. and Marv and Dave, and Bob. I brought Bob down there, and Chester Markle was down there and stuff. So the four of these guys together, and it's never, ever, ever the same conversation. It's you just sit back and you can't get enough of it. It's so interesting the way Lombardi is.
Just so you know, your wife just chimed in and she said, "Be careful, Wayne." That's what she said. She said, "Be careful, Wayne." So
after 36 years, what am I going to do? Fall down?
But it's awesome, hearing their stories, hearing your stories, it's been an honor, man. It's been
Thank you.
Getting to know you. It really has.
Thank you. Saturday, I'm taking Bob along to the Milwaukee Brewers opening day. He's never been.
That'll be fun.
And he called me today, and he says, because he's been ill for the last couple of years, and now he's just getting out and about and whatever. And I've been blessed to become a very good friend of his, honestly, and I don't take that for granted. And so he called me today. He says, "Wayne," he says, "I can't tell you how excited I am to go. It's going to be 60 degrees out." And he says, and I'm worried about, Bob says, he always says, never call me before 9 in the morning. So he calls me and he says, "Wayne," he says, "we got to get there early. There's going to be a lot of traffic." And I said, "Bob, you don't get your ass out of bed till 9 o'clock. What do you want me to do?" He says, "Come on now." He says, "What time do you want to pick me up?" So, he's like a little kid.
That's awesome.
But it's he's so sincere, and, he's got such a great sense of humor. So it'll be fun.
Now, Wayne, what would you like to plug? Besides, you have your website. I know that you have a once-a-year function. Tell everybody a little bit what you're out there promoting, what you want people to know, what you want them to take part of.
Well, first of all, here's the coat.
Ah, there it is. Looks like you need Aaron Rodgers coming to do a signing here. What's he charged?
Yeah, I know, but I didn't want to take a second mortgage out in the house to get 2 initials on it.
I hear you.
Well, first and foremost, I do have an annual event, and this year is going to be the 8th event. But more importantly than my event is the cause, and that cause is the new community shelter, Green Bay. And to me, that's what it's all about is, and I think that's why I've been put on this earth, because I do a lot for those that are less fortunate. I grew up in a very poor environment, went without, didn't go hungry or nothing like that, but, went without, things that we enjoy today. But the new community shelter Green Bay is a facility that was established almost 20 years ago. And what they do is they cater to those less fortunate, to those that are in need. And they have a computer lab. They feed, they house those less fortunate. And when you say that, a lot of people right away say, it's homeless people and it's people in recovery. That's not the case with the new community shelter Green Bay. These are people that are displaced because of death of a spouse, because of flood, because of fire, because of tragedy, because of, there's no place else to go. It's a place dedicated for that. But you just don't go in. You just don't eat and sleep and be a bump on a log. There's goals that they set for you, and you have to agree upon, and to rehabilitate yourself and put yourself back in the workforce. And they're there to help you to do that. So, having said that, we established an event called the Ultimate Packer Fan Connection, and we've had it on different days throughout June, July, and August. And we found last year that we held it on the same day as the Packer shareholders meeting, which is typically the end of July. And the shareholders meeting brings in approximately 12 to 15,000 fans from throughout the world, owners of the team, and and they have their tickets and what have you. So it's a select group. So we chose that date because there is a vast majority of Packer fans there. And the shareholders meeting is held usually from 11 to 1 in the morning. So there's nothing to do that afternoon. So we host our event from, we'll start at 10 o'clock in the morning, go to 6 o'clock at night. We'll have a DJ there. There's all kinds of silent auctions. Last year we had probably a dozen players, from Billy Schrader, Antonio Freeman, Johnny Gray, Dave Robinson, the list goes on. There's incredible support. And none of these players charge us to be there.
Incredible.
They'll sign autographs, they'll do photo ops, and all the money goes to the new community shelter of Green Bay. And that's what I stand for, to do that. We make no money whatsoever out of this. Johnsonville donates all the brats. D2 Sports donates the facility. They give us a percentage off the beverages. So it's a real giving event, and that's where my heart is to give back to those people that are experiencing bad times through no fault of their own. So that's what I'm all about.
I love it. I say it quite often that you're not living if you're not giving.
That's exactly right.
And once you start, and you don't do it anything but for helping people, and I'm a big Zig Ziglar fan. If people don't know it, he once said that you could have everything in life you want as long as you're willing to help other people get what they want out of life. And
That's
I
right.
believe that wholeheartedly,
The volume again.
And how's that?
It's good.
Okay. Steve Tate and I talked about it, and it's totally what our group represents as well. You see people donating. Tim Oliveira's donating memorabilia. Kevin is donated memorabilia. They all do that just for the love of each other. That's what I love about our group. So.
Steve and I get asked all the time, for donations. And what people don't understand is that they think we have an unlimited source of autographed memorabilia. Well, the problem is it's not unlimited, it's limited. Secondary is Steve and I are the ones that purchase it. We don't get this stuff for free. We make it autographs for free, but footballs, jerseys, mini helmets, trophies, Steve and I, that comes out of our pocket. It doesn't come out of our event stuff.
Right.
And sometimes you got to say no. We do what we can. Like yourself, Jim. I mean, you're very gracious as well. You buy a mug, and you get the corner of the department store. And I mean, that's great.
Well, we love our
you're
people.
bad saying no, but on the same token is we all try to give enough to gain acceptance, I suppose.
Incredible. Well, Wayne, I don't want to take all your night, especially with your son being here. Your beautiful wife's waiting for you, I'm sure. We've spent an hour of your time, and I'm honored. I don't know if people know, but you're letting me work a little bit on your website, and I love doing it. I love doing it, man.
And I can't thank you enough. Jim is the guru right now behind my website. I mean, I can only provide the content, but this man, Jim Cooper right here, is a wizard.
Thank you, man.
It's a great pastime for him. He loves doing it. It's going to cost me in the end. I know it. Not monetarily, but it'll work out.
I don't do stuff like that. Much like you, man. I do stuff because I enjoy doing it, and I enjoy you spending your time in the group, just like with Steve and Chris Jackie, Mark Fleming. I help out with their
Tom Crabtree.
Tom Crabtree next week, man. I can't wait.
Right.
I'm nervous about that one.
That'll be good. And I know Bob Long will do it. Okay. And I don't want to speak outside the box, but I got a Hall of Fame alumni player that I'm quite certain that'll probably follow right after Bob Long.
Ooh, any hints?
He wore number 89.
Hall of Fame number 89. Okay. All right.
Lives in New Jersey.
Okay.
Played in Super Bowl 1 and 2.
Have I had him on here before?
No, Dave Robinson.
Yeah, I've had Dave a couple times.
Oh, have you? Okay.
I love Dave. I love him.
Oh, Dave's a great guy. I'm just saying he's one of the guys that would probably love to.
Yeah. I swear I want to get, because I could host up to 20 people at a time. I want to get you. I want to get Steve. I want to get Chris Jackie. I want to get all of us, Bob Long, Dave Robinson, all of us on here one time for a good hour or two and just have a wonderful time, sharing some stories.
You know, it's fun to talk to is Freeman.
Antonio Freeman, huh?
Oh, he's fun to talk to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, he really is. And Billy Schrader's pretty fun too.
Well, if you could help with any of those kind of connections, I would appreciate it.
Well, we'll talk.
Okay. All right.
I can't make commitments to those, but right now I'm focused on next Thursday, taking Bob to the Brewer game. We got great seats right on the first baseline, and I don't know if you know Tom Andrews or not, but Tom's going to come down and talk with us. And Tom was one of the very first reporters to interview Bob Long when he first began playing football. So they're gonna hook up again. So they're both looking forward to that, and it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Awesome. Well, Wayne, I sure appreciate your time, my friend, and I know I'll be talking to you probably over the next couple days or so. But
sure.
Thank you very much for everything that you do in the community of Green Bay and out there just in the world and in particular, because I always say it has to start within ourselves. Before we go pointing the finger at anybody else, you got to point it at yourself.
That's right.
Here within yourself and be able to help other people. And once you do that, you'll find that happiness within yourself. I'll take all that happiness all day long than $1 million worth of merchandise.
Exactly. And Jim, in closing, what folks need to remember is not to they have to remember that it's a game of football, and they have to remember what game means. And you know what? Stay positive. I mean, someone could tell you the Packers suck. Say, hey, dude, I hope you guys win today. It's just, two negatives don't work. Be positive.
Right.
And
I got to ask you one more.
Sure.
Did you shed a tear a little bit over Clay Matthews going to the Rams?
No.
Was a lot of controversy right now, and I kind of stepped out today and I said, you know what? I appreciate Clay and his time as a Packer. I'm very thankful for that, but in my opinion, it was his time to go.
Jim, and I agree with you, and Randall Cobb as well. I'm not saying that they weren't. They certainly had their share of greatness, in the last few years in Green Bay, and that's going to follow them throughout their life. However, it's a business. The NFL is a business, and after having 2 losing seasons, under 500, we have to go forward. And both of those guys had a lot of money under the salary cap. They've both been injury prone. And it's the focus now on the league is, young, new, faster talent. And I'm not saying each one of them doesn't have a year or two under the belt left. They probably do. But I mean, look at how hot Clinton Dix. Here's a prime example. Okay, he left us. Went to the Skins. Now he's going, and he made it well known that he could have got more money playing for other teams, but he wanted to play for the Bears. You gotta go where your heart is. And I'm not saying Clay and Randall didn't have that, but like Jordy Nelson, we hated to see him go too. Sometimes we make mistakes, sometimes we don't. I think in the case of Matthews and Cobb, the time has come.
I agree with you.
Time to move on, and
and just miss him doing that hair flip all over the place.
I'm not going to miss that at all because, I'm not a big fan of that. Just like A.J. Hawk when he had all that long hair and stuff. Yeah. I'm just not to me, I'd be in fear of someone just ripping the shit out of the back of my head. These guys with the locks and stuff, that's one thing. I mean, it's clustered together. But somebody like Clay, where it's, like Fabian or something, I mean.
Do you know, after this, all of my moderators are going to call me up and they're going to yell at me, why does Wayne Sargent get to say bad words on your
I'm sorry.
They're all James Randolph. I know he's text messaging me right now, probably yelling at me.
I'm sorry. I don't think of the S word as being.
I know. We just try to keep it friendly.
No, and I greatly appreciate that. I do apologize, when I was talking about my heart thing, but that was the impact that it had on me, and I said that word intentionally because I did say it to her. And you got to picture yourself on the table thinking that your heart is fine. There's nothing. You've had all these tests for 30 years. It's not my heart. What the heck is it? And then all of a sudden your cardiologist says you have this hypotropic cardiomyopathy. When you're going to die.
First, you're trying to figure out how to even spell it.
I couldn't even say it. Can you say it?
No, I'm not even going to try. Well, Wayne.
Said the last time, that was just, everyday conversation.
I hear you.
Type thing. But Randolph, I'm sorry. I apologize. Miss Conway, don't please stay my friend. I lost 4 yesterday.
She loves you. All right. Will you be tuning in next week to watch Tom Crabtree?
Absolutely.
All right.
I love Tom because, he was like the unsung hero of the team, playing tight end. He did his job, but if he wasn't catching a ball, he was blocking.
Right.
He was a football player.
Yeah.
So got to respect the guy for that.
All right. Well, as we end every time, we like to say it loud and we like to say it proud, like Steve Tate yelled it at us last time. Could you give us one Go Pack Go?
All right. Well, I'm a little louder than Steve is. And by the way, you look great in green and gold in that patch on your chest there.
Thank you. Look at that.
That's very becoming.
Visit the website, guys, people.
UltimatePackerFan.com. And in leaving, thanks, folks, for listening to me, putting up with my foul mouth and what have you. And stay positive and go back, go!
All right. Thank you, Wayne. I'll talk to you soon, my friend.
All right, buddy. Thanks again. Appreciate it, man.
All right.